What is going on, guys? Trench's Fleet here, back at it again with another video. Now you might be asking yourself, wait a minute, Trench, didn't you just do a movie rankings tier list like just a few months ago? Like, why are we doing this again so soon? And the answer to that is my friends and I just did a Star Wars marathon recently, so that was a lot of fun. But after that, I went ahead and revisited my rankings for the movies, and things actually changed a decent bit. So I thought, you know what, like, might be fun to just revisit my rankings, revisit this tier list, and see how much things have changed. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it. So starting us off here, once again, we are going in chronological order because that just makes the most sense to me. So starting off with episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, if you remember last time, I put this in the C tier, and this one, after rewatching this movie, it had been a little bit. After rewatching this movie, I'm actually gonna put it in the A tier. This one jumped up quite a bit. I had a lot of fun revisiting The Phantom Menace. Not sure what it was about it. It just really hit this last time that I watched it. I mean, right off the bat, you can just feel this new vibe from the prequels. This movie's got Qui-Gon, who is one of the most underrated characters in Star Wars, in my opinion. Young Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi. We get to see Naboo, which is like super cool planet. This movie gets a lot of slack for Jar Jar, and I mean, you know, Jar Jar's a goofy character. He's it is what it is, you know what I mean? That doesn't ruin the movie for me, though. It's still a lot of fun. The action's really cool, really fast-paced. I mean, that lightsaber fight at the end, it's a top 10 lightsaber fight for sure. That, you know, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Maul. I really like young Anakin Skywalker on Tatooine. I like seeing his relationship with his mom. I mean, that's the scene where he leaves his mom. It's like really, like, man, this is a really emotional scene considering the path that we know that Anakin goes down. So yeah, this is just, I mean, the pod race as well. So this is a really great one. I like this one a lot. Phantom Menace jumps up to the A tier. Next up is Attack of the Clones. Last time I put this one in the C tier. This time, it's going to move its way up to the B tier. I will go ahead and say, of the 9 Skywalker Saga movies, this one is my least favorite, but I still think there's a lot to like about it. First of all, there's the Coruscant chase scene in the beginning. That's pretty cool. We get Anakin and Obi-Wan. They've got this completely different dynamic than Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan had of master and apprentice. And, you know, this movie gets a lot of slack for the Anakin Padme romantic scenes, and it's sure the dialogue is bad, and it's, you know, like it's kind of hard to watch at times. But in the end, I think the story is there. I like seeing Jango Fett, the Clone Army, and I really like Anakin's character development on Tatooine. You know, he goes to visit the Lars family, and seeing the death of his mother, I mean, that's something that really pays off from episode 1, and I mean, I think that's a big part of his turn to Darth Vader. So, and then of course there is the Battle of Geonosis in the end. So this is a really great one. I like it, definitely like it. And so I'm going to put it in the B tier. Next, we have Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And guys, I put this one in the S tier last time. And unfortunately, this one has dropped down. No, I'm kidding. Guys, this one is still in the S tier. In fact, I'll go ahead and spoil it for you. Revenge of the Sith rose up to my number 1 spot. I just love this movie. I mean, this one is so good. This one has, in my opinion, the best opening for any Star Wars movie. The Battle of Coruscant, you know, rescuing the Chancellor. I mean, it's so action-packed. It's just like this 30-minute sequence of nonstop action. I think it's a lot of fun. And this one, I mean, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen have both really grown into these characters, and I think this is peak Anakin and Obi-Wan in this movie for sure. And, you know, just seeing all these seeing all the dominoes fall that would eventually make Anakin turn. You know, the story of Darth Plagueis, the nightmares he has about Padme that he once had about his mother, the fact that the way that the council is treating him, and the fact that, you know, it seems like the council really is trying to take over the Senate. It all culminates in Anakin's turn to the dark side. This one is just, it's such an emotional one. I mean, Order 66, especially having seen the Clone Wars, you know, Order 66, it just gets you every time. And I mean, oh man, I could have raved about this one for so long. Seeing Anakin and Obi-Wan fight, such an emotional battle, you know, especially having watched all of these movies back to back. So really, really great setup for the original trilogy. Gotta be my favorite Star Wars movie, taking the number one spot. It's Revenge of the Sith. And next we have Solo. Solo, I'm debating whether I should put it in the B tier or the C tier. I'm gonna put it in the B tier. I'm gonna be generous, put in the B tier. This one, I'll go ahead and spoil it. This one is the lowest on my rankings, but having watched it recently, I had a lot more fun with it than I had before. I still think this one is the least impactful to the story, but it is a really fun movie. Alden Ehrenreich, I think is his name, actually did a great job as Han Solo. I mean, it is not an easy task to fill the shoes of Harrison Ford, but he did a great job. Donald Glover, of course, did great as Lando. I really like all these side characters, and, you know, this is just a fun heist movie set in Star Wars, basically, and we get to see a lot of Han Solo's backstory, how he gets the Falcon, how he meets Chewie, all these different things. So I think this is a really fun adventure. I'm going to put it in the B tier because I did enjoy it more this time than I had in the past. That said, it still stays at the bottom of my rankings just because I don't feel like it adds a ton to the character of Han. Next up is Rogue One. Last time I put Rogue One in the B tier, and it is going to remain in the B tier. I would put it above Solo. I feel like Rogue One and Attack of the Clones, I'm always going back and forth about which one I like more. The reason is, I feel pretty similarly about both of them in that they have a really, really strong ending. You know, both have really great battles in the end. But the beginning parts, the first, you know, about 2/3 of each of them are a little slower. At the end of the day, I think I'm going to put Attack of the Clones above Rogue One just because I am more personally invested in Anakin and Obi-Wan and Padme and all of them over the Rogue One characters. I do really like the Rogue One characters. Jyn, Cassian, K2SO. Chirrut has got to be my favorite. He has some really funny moments. This is a really cool movie. It's a really great way to set up A New Hope, like directly set up A New Hope. And I really like how they explain the Death Star flaw. I mean, that makes it so much cooler, in my opinion, having Galen Erso have intentionally put the flaw in the Death Star. So, yeah, and then, I mean, there's the Vader scene, of course, Battle of Scarif. All these things are great. For me, Rogue One is going to stay in the B tier. It's going to remain the same. Next is A New Hope, Episode 4. Last time, I put this one in the A tier, and it is going to remain in the A tier. I mean, A New Hope is great. What can I say that hasn't been said? It's classic. It is iconic. It completely deserves to be in the A tier. The reason that this one is going to remain in the A tier is, you know, this one is iconic. It sets up, you know, Luke, Han, Leia, their dynamic so well. Darth Vader, the Empire. I mean, this one does the most world building. It introduces all these things. I feel like the one word that comes to mind when I think of this movie is iconic. You know, the Death Star, trench run in the end. It's all great. But the reason it doesn't quite reach that S tier level for me is is because, you know, while it is iconic, I think it has definitely aged the most of the original trilogy, which, again, I said this in the previous tier list, because this is the oldest one. But even so, you know, this is my lowest ranked one of the original trilogy, and it's still in the A tier. So that just goes to show how good the original trilogy is. And yeah, A New Hope, really good one. The perfect beginning for the Star Wars saga. It's going to stay in the A tier for me. Next is Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back remains in the S tier, of course. I mean, widely regarded as the best Star Wars movie. And, you know, what stands out about this one to me is that, you know, when they were making a sequel to Star Wars in 1980, they could have so easily just given us more of the same, given us a story where the heroes go up against some threat and then they beat it in the end, and they make a trilogy of that. But they ended this movie on a dark note. You know, they ended it unresolved. But that just makes the trilogy as a whole so much more fulfilling in the end, because it really feels like one continuous story. Empire Strikes Back, I mean, really changed the game for Star Wars, right? If A New Hope was the perfect beginning for it, Empire Strikes Back was the perfect follow-up for it. Introducing Yoda, you know, giving us that twist of Darth Vader as the father. This remains an amazing Star Wars movie, and it's staying in the S tier for me. Next is Return of the Jedi. Last time I put it in the S tier. It's going to remain in the S tier, but I'm actually going to put it just slightly above Empire Strikes Back. Return of the Jedi was always my favorite one growing up, and on it, it's just so good. I don't know what to say. Luke with the green lightsaber is so awesome. That's got to be my favorite lightsaber in Star Wars, is Luke's green one. But seeing the gang back together, seeing them defeating the Empire in this final battle of Endor, it's just, I love it. I mean, Luke, Vader, Palpatine, all of their scenes together are just so good. Quintessential Star Wars right there. The Ewoks, you know, people sometimes give this movie hate for the Ewoks. I think maybe after having seen the Ewoks series, I've got a bit more appreciation for this one. But hey, Ewoks, more Ewoks content coming soon for the channel. But anyways, yeah, this one is just such a perfect ending for the original trilogy, for Anakin's story. It's the perfect happy ending. It's great. Staying in the S tier for me, 100%. And next up is The Force Awakens. Now, last time I put The Force Awakens in the S tier, and let me just start this off by saying, I will always love The Force Awakens. This was the first Star Wars movie that I saw in theaters. It was such a great experience, and I will always remember that experience seeing it. I'll always love this movie for that reason. But watching all the movies back to back, watching this one, I mean, it's very similar to A New Hope. And, you know, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, but it doesn't bring too much new to the table in terms of the story. It brings all these great new characters into the mix. It's just it's a really well-made movie. Really great movie. But yeah, maybe it was the marathon format that we were doing where it didn't quite reach that level it normally does. So I'm debating right now, do I put it in the B or do I put it in the A? I think I'm going to put it in the A tier because at the end of the day, I think it's a really well-made movie, but it did drop down a little bit for me. So, Force Awakens, still great, putting in the A tier, but it did drop down from my previous rankings. And oh man, here we are, back at it again, talking about The Last Jedi. Oh man, this has got to be the most controversial Star Wars movie. I'm going to take a lot of heat for this one, but you know what, guys? I'm putting The Last Jedi in the S tier. I'm just doing it. I don't care. I think it's so good. The reason I'm moving it up from A tier to S tier is that it's just, I mean, coming off of The Force Awakens, it's like this one really takes the story in a completely new direction for the saga, and I really appreciate that. It gives us this completely new level of development for Luke to where he's cut himself off from the Force, you know, which, I mean, I think it makes sense because, you know, he didn't come to help in episode 7, and the Luke we know would have. And I think it makes sense based on, you know, Kylo Ren, or I guess Ben Solo at the time, he was, I guess, starting to dabble in the dark side, and Luke having been the one to bring Vader back to the light, to confront Vader. I mean, as far as the galaxy knew, Luke Skywalker was the one to defeat Vader and to defeat the Emperor, right? So for him to carry that burden for the potential of a new Vader, basically, him seeing the future, seeing the death of you know, the Republic, the death of Han, all of these things, it makes sense why Luke instinctively in that moment, I mean, Luke is an instinctive, we see this in Empire Strikes Back, Luke is very instinctive, you know? It makes sense why he would do this. And I think it's such a well-made movie. I think, you know, all the scenes on the island are just beautiful. I just like it a lot. I like Rey and Luke's dynamic. I like Rey and Kylo's dynamic. That's something this movie really builds up, which I think is a very strong point of this trilogy. This movie gets a lot of hate for Rose, for example. I think first of all, just what happened with Kelly Marie Tran is just, it's so terrible how much she was bullied by people online. But guys, I'm just gonna say it. Rose really is not that bad. You know, I think people have the tendency to blow certain things out of the water. You know, people were like, oh, Jar Jar completely ruins this movie. He totally doesn't for The Phantom Menace, you know, and people have said that about Rose with this one. Rose definitely does not ruin the movie. I think Rose is fine. She's really not that bad. Finn's arc, you know, I was able to appreciate it a little bit more this time. You know, Finn is someone who first betrayed the First Order, and now he's sort of thinking about deserting the Resistance, and so he has to go on this journey to be like, you know what? All right, I'm gonna commit to something. And Poe essentially is growing into this new leadership role. So I really like everyone's character arcs in this. The Battle of Krayt is super cool. The hyperspace ram, the throne room fight scene. I mean, porgs, like this is a great movie. I'm gonna take some heat for it, but I just don't care. This is a great one. It's going in the S tier for me. Lastly, we have Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Last time, I was sort of unsure. I put it in the A tier, although it probably could have gone in the B tier. I was unsure. But after watching it this time, honestly, it just hit. And I'm gonna put it in the A tier. Top of the A tier. Because this movie has a lot of goofy stuff. I will admit that. You know, the fake out death scenes for Chewie and 3PO, these plot points that they're kind of rushing in at the last second. You know, Palpatine's revival would have been great to get some hints for that earlier in the trilogy. It definitely it feels goofy in a lot of ways, I think, but I kind of like Phantom Menace. This one just hit. Like, it just hit. All the emotional moments, they just got to me. You know what I mean? I mean, Rey and Kylo, I think Rey is super good in this movie. I really like her and Kylo's scenes together. Leia's death, it just gets you, especially, you know, knowing the situation with Carrie Fisher. This is a really fast-paced movie, but it keeps things moving along. Palpatine's back. I feel like it ties the entire saga together in a nice way, you know, connecting back to Revenge of the Sith, the whole Darth Plagueis thing. Ben's redemption in the end. I mean, this one is just, it's just really enjoyable. It's a lot of fan service, but I'm like, you know what? Is that the worst thing? I just enjoyed it a lot more than before. So yeah, that one's going in the A tier for me. So guys, that is gonna be it. Just a quick revisit to my rankings, my tier list. From top to bottom, it's gonna be Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker, Phantom Menace, A New Hope, The Force Awakens, Attack of the Clones, Rogue One, and then Solo. You might be asking, Trench, why even include the C, D, and F tier if you're not even going to use them? My point in making this video is, you know what? After watching all these movies back, I feel like they're all good. I mean, there's something I can enjoy in all of these movies. You know, the sequels get a lot of slack for, you know, not having a plan and all of that. I think I feel like it's more of a matter of having different visions going on. You know, you have J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson. They definitely should have had more of a plan. But it's like, at the end of the day, I still enjoy it. I don't let that ruin the experience for me. You know what I mean? It's still enjoyable, even watching them all back to back. I think a lot of the times when there's something that, you know, some people don't like and whatever, it'll be blown out of proportions. It happened to the prequels. It's happened to the sequels. They're not all perfect by any means, but you know what? At the end of the day, I don't watch Star Wars because it's perfect. I watch Star Wars because it's Star Wars. And you know what? I can turn on any one of these movies and just have a good time with it. So, hope you enjoyed these rankings. Be sure and let me know yours down in the comments below. Let me know if you guys have done a Star Wars marathon. I gotta say, it's so much fun just watching all these movies back to back. I'll include a brief clip of a sort of ritual, if you will, that we did at the beginning of every movie. Guys, again, hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.